Welcome to Effective Change, a podcast sharing the journeys of people who have created social impacts. At Effective Change, we question the meaning of effective social impact and find out how these leaders have found their own ways to run a socially impactful organization.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie and we have Suela here with us today and we are hosting today's episode. We hope you're all doing well wherever you may be. So in this episode, we invited Karis, co-founder of Social Stories Club. So Social Stories Club is a UK-based social enterprise that creates high-quality gift boxes and hampers where each product inside contributes to positive social or environmental change. So welcome, Karis.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we'll start off with some quick fire questions to know you a bit better, Karis. So are you ready?
I am. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So first up, describe yourself in 3 words.
I would say ambitious, creative, and fun.
Oh, I love those words. So next up, shortbread or digestives?
I'm definitely a caramel shortbread person. I'm not so much of a fan of digestives unless they've got the dark chocolate on.
I do love a dark chocolate digestive, and I'm definitely like a plain shortbread person as well, with a nice cup of tea.
Well, that's very Scottish, and I'm in Scotland, so you should come up here and visit.
And lastly, who inspires you and why?
This is a really good question. I think to me, it's anyone who's living their life on their own terms and is doing something that they truly believe in, and they've created a life for themselves.
And I'm sure like you're an inspiration to our people on our podcast and myself as well. It's great to have you on here. Oh, that's brilliant. I love the vision that you have, and you know how you're actually connecting that to the UN sustainability goals. So we'll start off with some aspects about Social Stories Club. So how did Social Stories Club actually come about?
Well, thank you for asking this question. It came about when I was really young and I knew I was really interested in charities, and this was something that was really important to me. I did a lot of fundraising, a lot of volunteering, and it gave me a lot of fulfillment. But then separately, business was what really excited, and entrepreneurship. And my parents were both entrepreneurs, and for me, it was like a game, but in real life. And I was excited by the unlimited possibilities entrepreneurship offered. And it was only my 3rd year of university, when I went over to study in Vancouver, that I understood and found out that social enterprise was business and charity that were met in the middle. And it was here that I realized that businesses solve some of the world's biggest challenges using entrepreneurial skills that I had and I was developing and working on. And in that moment, it was a light bulb moment. This is what I had to do for the rest of my life. This was my calling. And it was really a vision that was painted for the future. I saw a world where businesses led in creating social change and social impact. And after feeling just very apathetic towards the government, and it just wasn't resonating with me what they were saying in Parliament. And I just didn't feel that was the way that we were going to really make a difference in the world. Social enterprise allowed me to make an impact every day by purchasing and supporting social enterprises and by starting a social enterprise. So it was very empowering, and it was this exciting vision that I had for the future. And I think a lot of people get that same vision too. It gives a lot of hope knowing about social enterprise. But when I came back to the UK, I found out that only 1% of people knew what a social enterprise was. That means 99% of people have no idea that social enterprise exists. So I set about thinking, how can we find a way to introduce the UK to social enterprise? And this was when I found my co-founder, Ayush. I told him this is what I was doing. And I just asked him in a 2-minute conversation, would you like to join me and start a social enterprise with me? And he said yes. And we decided we were going to do gift boxes and introduce the world to social enterprise through the most exciting gifts full of products which were making a difference. So teas which educate girls in tea growing regions, chocolate supporting reforestation projects, etc. And that's how Social Stories Club was born.
Wow, that's fantastic. No, thank you for sharing that, Karis. And I love how, you know, it turned from more of a personal experience, family, and then to understand, you know, going to Vancouver, having that political aspect added as well, and how it sort of shaped on what your own vision to actually educate others about what social entrepreneurship means. And I think based on that, what you're talking about of how you're using these gift boxes and hampers to carry that message, what do you think are the common misconceptions of social enterprise?
That's a really good question. And I do know a little bit about this because I actually did my dissertation partly on this. And when it comes to social enterprise, there are many misconceptions about social enterprise. And I actually did my dissertation on this. So the first misconception is that the quality of the products from social enterprises won't be as high as the quality of the products from non-social enterprises. And this is because people believe that they're paying for the social impact. So if you have soap and it's packaged by individuals with barriers to employment, people believe that you are paying the higher price for the soap to enable these people to have those jobs and at expense of the quality, which is just not the case. The quality of products from social enterprises could be just as high or higher than the quality that you'd get in this market. Another misconception is that the price is high. And really, with something being expensive, it's fairly subjective, right? What could be expensive to you could be different for me. And if you're comparing things to Poundland, then you might think social enterprise products are a bit expensive. But if you're comparing it to Marks and Spencer's, it can actually be even a little bit cheaper or the same price. It just depends on what you're comparing it to. These are high quality products that have an amazing story of how they're changing the world. And I think those are the most common misconceptions about social enterprise: the quality and the price.
That's very interesting that you mentioned about quality and price, because I think in terms of price, when we think about when we go to the supermarket and whatnot, we've always been educated or like been not educated, been brought up where you go maybe for the cheapest one because it'll save you money and whatnot. But people don't understand often the story behind of how this product, for example, was brought to market. And I think that's what Social Stories Club seems to be doing, and is telling all these stories through this hamper. And I'm just really fascinated about how you and your co-founder were able to put together this idea and really tell these stories through providing and to really educate people about this. And I guess like based on that aspect of it, I guess of how you're measuring maybe the different elements of Social Stories Club, how has it actually grown recently?
So when we first started, we had a little market stall in Glasgow. We had all the boxes in my bedroom, which I hand stamped up until 3 a.m. in the morning. And it was, for me and I used, it was a bit of a miserable lifestyle. We didn't have any money. The Social Stories Club was just scraping by on our savings and the little amounts, pockets of funding that we could get. And we've now grown into a warehouse just outside of Edinburgh. Everything is professionally printed. We have a wonderful team and we've come such a long way. In terms of impact, how have we grown? The more gifts that we sell, the larger impact we make. We've introduced 1 million people to social enterprise. And we also now hire, and we've done this for the last 2 years, but we couldn't afford to do this at the start, individuals with barriers to employment who pack our gifts and are given training opportunities. And we've provided over 3,000 hours for these individuals to have these job opportunities. And that's something that we always wanted to do from the start. And we are so excited that this program is growing and developing. So we've come an enormously long way. And for those who are kind of at that market stall stage, we were there for 2 years before we really started to break into, well, market stalls aren't really worth our time anymore. And you have to stick at it. If you really believe in what you're creating, you have to stick at it because it does take time and it does take being very resourceful. And I think we could have maybe been a little bit more resourceful and we would have got here a little bit faster.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I love the commitment that you shared. You mentioned just now that it took the 2 years you spent on these market stands, money out of your own pockets. But that was outweighed, like all these sort of difficulties that you guys had were outweighed by your long vision, which paid off with the amazing stuff that you mentioned about how you're creating job opportunities for people, the sort of impact you're making to educating people about social enterprise. And I guess on top of that, what you're doing through Social Stories Club, are there other ways that you think we can actually address some of the misconceptions that you mentioned earlier? So the quality and price?
I think when people try social enterprise products, I think sometimes sometimes that they're really surprised at how great they are as standalone products, even without the social story. So I think it's about when you introduce people, people have never been disappointed by the quality of our gifts. And so when we give someone one of our gifts, they're introduced to this world and they're introduced to some of the best things in this world, some of the best products, the best stories. And so that's how we've gone about trying to iron out some of these common misconceptions. And we have such great feedback and reviews and testimonials, which shows that people are really enjoying this and they're really inspired to go and carry on looking for social enterprises themselves.
Amazing. And I was thinking, like, based on sort of what you mentioned earlier, of how you at the very start you use some odd grants here and there, money out, so and essentially bootstrapping here. Pardon me, sorry. I was wondering whether you can talk a bit about your views on how to actually scale, social enterprise, and based on your experience, where you've started off to where you're at now.
It's a good question. Every social enterprise has a different journey, but for us, it was we only took on what we could manage in stages. We didn't take on any order that we couldn't manage, and we made sure that we never let a customer down. And what this did is our customers were so happy with what we produced that they went on to refer them to other companies and their friends, and we got lots of 5-star reviews, and we really focused on that quality and delivering that excellent customer service. We did turn down orders as well where we didn't feel like we were the best fits, and we really stood by our values when creating the sustainable impact. And what happened is people really liked this, and they liked the fact that when they received a gift from us, it was perfect for them, it was delivered on time, it was exactly what they'd ordered, or we exceeded their expectations. And so they became raving fans. And when you build raving fans and people are really, really happy with you, you find that it starts to snowball. And that's how we really started to grow, was from the people who really loved our mission and vision that we were working towards, had those aligned values, and just wanted to tell everyone about our company and what we would.
Oh, that's amazing. And like, big congratulations on that. Like, I think it's amazing how far you guys moved from, as you mentioned, that those stores that you had in markets to where you're at now. And I think one of the biggest thing that I'm always sort of wondering as well, so when you're sort of building an enterprise, a startup and whatnot, you'll probably be going through a lot of on the business model canvas, lean canvas. I was wondering, when you're focusing on social enterprise, what sort of framework or tools do you use to help frame, you have that vision, but the value you're trying to have, what do you use, or what tools do you use to actually help you build on that from your end vision, but also backtracking to what you do to reach that end vision?
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier with social enterprises, because if you operate as a normal business and then on top of that have the social impact to consider, and there are impact canvases online as well, which we haven't used as much. I'm not an enormous fan of canvases at a later stage. I think they're really useful at the very early stages, but it's just really understanding who do you serve and how do you serve them, and then who are the beneficiaries and how do you serve them. And I think this was just really understanding the value we created to our customers, the value we created to our beneficiaries, and all the stakeholders involved as well. And that's what I would really recommend, is starting with these canvases, but then growing on from there and really getting to understand customers, stakeholders, and beneficiaries by talking to them and holding focus group and really understanding what the different needs are.
I definitely agree, because like, based on like some personal experience, I think at the start, you'll probably be looking at, a lean canvas every week until you've sort of proven all those sort of assumptions associated. And then once you've got, I guess, a repeatable sort of business model that you have, you're able to use that and scale it. A bit more about scaling. I wanted to ask, in terms of when you're pitching yourself, Social Stories Club, to potentially, customers and sort of wider markets, were there any particular hurdles that you came across, and how do you combat?
There were so many different hurdles that we came across. Everyone has different needs, and it's really trying to understand exactly what is that customer looking for, who is the decision maker, what are the challenges that they will face to prevent them from making this purchase. And often it's budgets or getting it signed off. These sorts of challenges can come into play, but it's understanding what they are and working with them, with each customer. For some customers, they had and this could have come into the misconceptions question that we spoke earlier, they had a misconception. because we were a social enterprise, we wouldn't deliver as great customer service as a non-social enterprise. And that just wasn't the case. And we had to demonstrate we place such an enormous emphasis on customer service. Your gifts will not be late. They'll be on time. We're GDPR compliant. And it was just making sure that we communicated that, yes, we're a social enterprise. And that's an added bonus because we also deliver an excellent product, which you're going to love. And when it comes to our customers and why they buy from us, it's large corporates. And many of them are really actively looking to purchase from social enterprises because they have these values and they want to demonstrate to their clients and employees that they have these values and the values are shared amongst them all. Because if people want to work for companies that care about sustainability, their corporate cares about sustainability, but they might not know about the CSR goals that the company is working towards. So they come to us and they're looking for this solution to make employees feel really appreciated, but also to demonstrate this shared value. And so we help them understand that that's what we can do through our gifts.
And I think based on the aspect you were mentioning about CSR, so corporate social responsibility here, I was wondering, like, with these people ordering gifts from you and to really add value that way, I guess, like, how would you, from a personal perspective, there might be elements where companies are only doing it for the sake of doing it. What's your views on that based on your interactions with your clients?
Well, companies are made up of people, and people really care about sustainability. From what I've seen and the people that I've spoke to, this is something that is really important to them. And it doesn't mean that they live zero waste lifestyles. It means that they're interested in finding out how they can become more sustainable, how they can support communities, and they do want to start making small changes in their life. So when people say that companies don't care about sustainability, companies are made up with people, and people really do.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's funny how what you mentioned in terms of, it's great to hear that people actually care, because this is also, for me, another misconception where what you mentioned about how people would typically say, oh, they're only doing it for the sake of doing it, but actually these people actually care behind the scenes to make a change, however big or small, even through ordering gifts through enterprises like Social Stories Club. I was wondering, in terms of the future, where do you see Social Stories Club going?
So Social Stories Club is a gifting company, and we want to become a household name in the UK. We want social enterprise to become a household name. And in order to get there, we need more sales, we need more support, but we've created a gift that we think is really exciting to give and receive. So before we diversify and we try new areas of Social Stories Club, that's where we see we want to focus on our gifting, and we want to develop our program of hiring more people with barriers to employment to pack our gifts. And that's really our focus right now. I could be very creative and come up with a lot of ideas, but I think if you lose the focus, then you won't grow what we have right now into its full potential of where it can be.
I hope with how you guys are growing in the future, you're able to really establish and tell more stories, educate more people through these gift boxes. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys get up to.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. So in this part, we'll just chat about, women in entrepreneurship and also women enterprise, because I know this is a topic that we're all passionate about. I'm just wondering, Karis, like, as a woman entrepreneur, what do you think you have learned along the journey?
One really big thing I've learned, and people have told me this, but I didn't realize it, was that it isn't equal out there for women and men in business. There's enormous challenges that women face that men just don't have to face in the same way. 1% funding goes to female-founded companies. That's a shocking statistic. But there's so many more from there. The majority of entrepreneurs are male. And when you look up the word entrepreneur, you might find a man with his arms folded or his hands on his hip. You might see Richard Branson. You might see Steve Jobs. Where are the female entrepreneurs who are the role models for those of us who are starting out on our journey? Well, lots of women who are succeeding in business and are doing wonderful things are not posting their stories in the same way. Why? Because when they do, they're being called out for bragging. And as women, we feel like when we talk about our successes that we're bragging, when men just don't face that same challenge. So what I've learned about women, there's so much, I could talk about this all day, is it's not an equal playing field. There are challenges. And not only do we have to understand the challenges, we've got to find ways that we respond to them when they come up about very unexpectedly. And that's something that I've helped a lot of women entrepreneurs overcome at the University of Edinburgh through Edinburgh Innovations Power Her Up program.
That's so interesting, because I've definitely felt similar ways regarding to the idea of bragging. I feel like whenever I achieve something because of my efforts and I worked really hard for it, or I don't know, be a first class or whatever, I don't feel like I should, talk about it, post about it, because I always felt like people would tell me it's bragging. Or like I did something really well in my job. I don't feel like I should brag about it. Or if I secured a really good internship. I don't know. Even I still feel like it today, right now, literally. But why is it? I just don't get it though. Like, I don't know if you have any like understanding of this kind of conception.
Well, I think it's just the culture that we live in and what we've been told in society. For me, I actively try and make these posts. So when I won the Scottish Edge competition, which was an enormous achievement for us at £65,000, it's the largest business funding competition in the UK. I made sure that I posted about it along with what I had to overcome to get here. So women can know that this is a place where they can thrive. Entrepreneurship is a place for women in business, and women are succeeding in it. And they do have to overcome challenges. And I listed some of the challenges I had to overcome. But this is a space and there is support here for women.
I'm actually curious, do you have like a female business woman role model?
I have so many. And I think one of my mentors is Celia Hodgson from Hey Girls. And just seeing what she's had to overcome.
She's awesome.
Seeing what she's had to overcome and seeing the business she's created with similar values to me, that's been a big inspiration. But really the first one that I think of when I think of who was a role model for me growing up, I think the only female entrepreneur I knew for a long time was probably Deborah Meaden, who's, I guess, kind of celebrity status. And watching Deborah in Dragon's Den at the age of 10 years old, I wanted to be her. She was incredible. And I think having women represented as entrepreneurs is just so important for young girls to see that this is a career opportunity. This is a choice that they can make. They can start a business. Many other women have done it. Many other women are successful. And so to me, when I meet inspirational women every day, every networking event, and they all have incredible stories. And I think sharing those stories can really is the key, is the next thing we need to do to inspire more women to start businesses.
I completely agree, because this is exactly what Nat and I is trying to do through our podcast. Really, we want to share stories about not just women, but every amazing entrepreneurs out there. And I feel like in this kind of social enterprise, in the business world, I feel like social enterprise does not have the spotlight it deserves, because like what we discussed before, the misconceptions about it, people don't regard it as a real business sometimes. That's why we feel like it's so important to share those stories. And I completely agree about the power of it, because I definitely feel a lot more encouraged every time I speak to you. We know each other for like 3 years, and I feel like I wouldn't
probably longer now.
I wouldn't have started this podcast if I haven't known you, because I was like, oh, there's someone who has done something, has grown something from a small place to a huge social enterprise, and we're still loving what the stuff she's doing. So I feel like, why don't I give it a try? So you definitely are one of my biggest inspirations, Karis.
Wow, I had no idea. Thank you, Consuela. And that's really made my day, actually, because for me, I didn't feel I had a lot of people who were like just a bit further along than me sharing their journey. It was the Deborah Meadens, Karen Brady, and there weren't a lot of them being shared, but there weren't many of those kind of shared that just a little bit further ahead, just won their first business idea competition, just got their first order. And so I tried to share all of these things that I did, these small wins, really, and I aimed these posts at the next generation of female entrepreneurs below me. That's who I was trying to talk to, because if that's what I really needed. So I'm so glad. That's made my day.
Personally, I always had the feeling that I'm a bit scared. I feel like there's something unknown. And of course, we don't see loads of, at least for me, in my surroundings. I do know there are women entrepreneurs out there, but majority is still men. You know, even with the kind of the podcast the podcast guests were interviewed, there's still loads of men, and it seems like they can always do it. And I always had that fear. I don't know if it's because of my gender, or is it just because what I've grown up with, that I'm not going to be able to succeed in my, you know, mission or whatever. I don't know if you ever had that kind of misgiving or fear, and how did you overcome it?
Fear of failure is the number one reason that women don't start businesses. And it's a very real fear. It feeling of having to write like a post on Facebook saying, I tried this, I posted about it, you all saw me, and it didn't work. For some people, that's just the scariest thing. And I think really I was kind of a bit delusional in my journey. I 100% believe Social Stories Club would work if I was resourceful enough, if I worked hard enough, if, do you know what I mean, I made the right collaborations. I had absolutely no doubt. But then it was just going out and doing all of those things. It's hard work. And there's many times on my journey where I've really relied on Ayush, my co-founder, to pick me up. And if one of us was feeling down, like, oh my gosh, do you know what I mean, what an enormous mountain we have to climb, the other one was feeling really good. Yeah, let's go, let's get on our hiking boots. And it's vice versa. So there were elements, do you know what I mean, along the way of, can we do this? Can we actually do this? And I don't think I felt like giving in, because I didn't really feel like I had another option. For me, this was it. This was it I wanted to do. And I was just so hungry for it to work. It just had to work. There wasn't another option. So I think fear of failure is definitely something that, do you know what I mean, has crept up over the years, but it hasn't been a dominating thought for me. There wasn't ever a time where we almost stopped or almost gave in. There was never that period for us. But I've spoken to a lot of women. Everyone just has their own unique journey when it comes to entrepreneurship. And some people have the privilege of being able to live in their parents' house rent-free. Some people have the privilege of having a massive team and a full-time job or to support them. So everyone's coming from a different place where it's much easier for some to start businesses than others. And some have to sacrifice a lot more than others. If you have children, I can't imagine starting a business and, do you know what I mean, having to juggle children. That would be an enormous challenge. And I didn't have children, and this was all I had. This was my only and my main focus. So I was able to give it that tunnel vision I think it really needed.
I love the confidence from the start, where you're so sure it's going to work. I'm sure it's going to work as well, and it's working so well. I love that. I feel like it is that belief almost that we have to give ourselves and hold on to it, and just to believe it will work, and in reality it will work. And also I love how, you know, you can also be able to, you know, just act on it and just keep going, instead of, because there are times when we believe in something but we might still not really act on it because for some reasons, I don't know why, you know, we're just humans, we do that all the time.
I think there's only so many of you. Do you know what I mean? You probably have so many different ideas and so many different things you want to try. And there's, do you know what I mean, only so much of you to give. And you've got friendships to maintain. You've got family you want to spend time with. You might have hobbies. You might be studying. You have to choose what you do with your time. And if you choose entrepreneurship, it does take up a very, very large chunk of your time. And that's a commitment that not everyone wants to make for sometimes very, very good reasons.
I agree. I definitely agree. Do you have any tips for any women entrepreneurs out there who either looking to start their own business or already started their own business?
I recommend don't go alone. Find someone with complementing skill sets. So I'm marketing, sales, HR, pitching. I use operations, finance, administration, and legals. And we split the workload, and we're able to focus on our area and grow so much faster because we had each other. It's an enormous support system. And I'd say it's really important that you have the same vision, get a really good mentor, someone who really cares about you as an individual, is able to look at you as an entrepreneur and separately your enterprise. and have that support system, whether it's your friends or you have other entrepreneurs around you, networking groups. I think not feeling so alone as an entrepreneur, that's what I wish I'd done a little bit more. We did suffer from the pandemic, and also we were very poor financially. We couldn't go out for coffees, and I couldn't afford a networking event you had to pay for. So I think everyone's coming from different positions, but having those around you to support you is just absolute key. Co-founders, mentors, friends, peers, it makes the whole experience completely different, and you'll grow so much faster.
I completely agree again, because I just felt like mental is so important to almost every part of my journey. As a human being, we kind of need to create that support network around us. So it's like when you can't see your vision yourself, or when you really are struggling with your emotions, someone can literally tell you to keep going, or help you to remind you of your vision again, and to inspire you and keep you going. How do you think they can make a social impact without starting a whole business or company?
I think it's really supporting social enterprises and other impact-led companies. If you look in your life, what is it that you consume? If you can make small changes and then to support these social enterprises, have more eco-friendly options, then you can make a real difference in communities. And that's why we created Social Stories Club. With a gift, you can create an enormous social impact. And where businesses can incorporate social enterprises in their supply chain, us as individuals can support social enterprises. We can go to social enterprise cafes, buy social enterprise gifts, clothing, anything you need. There's probably a social enterprise alternative.
Exactly. That's exactly why we should all buy Christmas hampers or any gift hampers from Social Stories Club. I would literally 100% recommend. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Karis. That's all our questions, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted a gift that had the social impact, but also told a fascinating and inspiring story.
But no, thank you very much for coming on, Karis.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be invited. Thank you.
You can now find us on Anchor and Spotify. If you liked our discussion, please follow and share. Don't forget to follow Effective Change on LinkedIn and Instagram for exclusive updates and inspirations and memes.